Welcome to Authors Revealed. I'm Becky Anderson. I'm so excited. One of my favorite illustrators of all time is here. It's Jon Agee and his new picture book, It's Only Stanley. This is one you want to read over and over again. Well, Jon, welcome to Naperville and Anderson's.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to congratulate you because it's only Stanley. This is the launch day. It's officially out in the world today.
Stanley has arrived. He's stepped out of his little dog house.
His little dog house. This beagle. I think you like dogs who are much smarter than their owners, I think, or smarter than people in some of your books, probably.
Yeah. He's definitely smart.
He's very smart beagle here. So, great Kirkus review. You've had a couple of great starred reviews, PW, book lists, and everything. So how does it feel? I mean, you have way over 30 books out there in the world, but how does it feel every time, one is now out in the world and kids are looking at it, parents are probably enjoying them more than their kids, and it's
a great little time where you don't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some books that have done wonderfully, get great reviews, and then they kind of disappear, and then other books that they get okay reviews and then they do really well. It's hard to tell. It's very unpredictable. So I've been at this for so many years. We'll see what happens.
Well, I love this book. I love all of your books, so I'm probably not the best one. But I know you just did some school events with us today and yesterday. So tell us a little bit about those. And I know you've done a lot of school events over the years, but how did those go? Oh,
it was great. I did a school in St. Charles, and it was actually at the Arcada Theater. So I actually presented on stage. And the night before, there was Bob Marley's band, the Rastafarian band. So when we walked into the theater and the kids were there, it had a little of the aroma of the performance the night before. And it was. I don't think the kids picked up on it.
Yeah, right. But
it was great. It was great to be on stage, spotlight.
Right.
And then I think Judy was the librarian at that school.
Yeah.
She had the whole book on PowerPoint. It was great.
Oh, very cool, very cool. So what with school events, and I'm sure you got it. What do the kids say about Stanley and his family here, the Wimbledons, in this?
Oh, I'm just finding out because the book is. I'm having my first experience showing the book to kids, and they at the school today when I showed the book, they all cheered, and I was like, "What does this mean?" and I thought they'd already read the book, and so they know that what happens is that Stanley turns this unwitting family's house into a rocket ship to go visit this poodle on the moon. But when I read it to them, it was like they were waiting for the last page.
Yeah.
The little ones, because in the end, Stanley, it's a love story in a way. In fact, Kirkus reviews said it was very poignant. They called the book poignant, strange, they said, but very, very wonderful.
I like that combo.
It was a great review.
Love that combo.
So the little kids, when he kisses, well, they don't really kiss. Their noses touch in the end.
Yeah, right.
Some of the little kids go, ooh, there's a little, but they seem to be okay with it. Yeah.
So Stanley, where did Stanley begin? Where did that little germ start to grow for Stanley? Because I know you've done dogs before in other capacities. So
something about grown-ups being kind of not clued into what's going on. Because what happens is, of course, Stanley's turning their house into this rocket ship. But every time Mr. Wimbledon goes down to see what's happening, he misinterprets what Stanley's doing as something constructive. He's just fixing the oil tank or, clearing the bathtub drain. There's something I've always found funny about grown-ups who are kind of like children who are not really clued in. And it goes way back to Edward Lear, the British, who did those limericks of grown-ups doing very silly things to themselves. Yeah. I'm still doing that.
Well, we're happy you are. So the rhyme in this book, I love the rhyme in this book.
Yeah,
and a lot of people think that rhyme's easy to do, but it's not.
In fact, that's partly why the book was sitting on a shelf for more than several years because of that very reason. I was wondering, should I do it in rhyme? Should I try it in just prose? And in the end, I thought you have to do this in rhyme because it has this rhythm to it, which is very poetic. So it was a long time. Yeah. poem, it has to be just right.
Right,
You know, you
and
can't.
and people think it's easy. It is so incredibly difficult.
No,
It's
I'm here to.
Oh no.
But it has to read. It has to be seamless. Yeah, and
Right.
it came off really well. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ellsworth, another famous dog that you wrote about.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. Wow.
So
1983.
yeah.
That's a long time
That is
ago.
a long time
Aging.
ago.
Yeah.
But these incredibly genius dogs, you know, I find
Ellsworth was he was a professor of economics at a university.
Right.
But he gets fired, of
Yes,
course,
of
because
course.
he's discovered when on the weekends he takes his clothes off and acts like a dog. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So do you have a dog?
I do.
And do you have a beagle?
I don't have a beagle. I should, right? I actually got a dog about 3 years ago. My wife and I got a little thing. It's a little fluffy thing. It's a Havanese. I don't know. They're very popular in cities, and she's smart.
Okay.
But not quite as smart as Stanley. No.
Okay. Yeah. But I love the family, and I love because you always. For so little words that you put in your book, the words are perfect. They're perfectly placed. But even the names of the family in this book, I love it. Wilma, Walter, Willie, Wanda, Wiley, Wimbledon.
Yes.
I love them. And I know you love words, and you love, you know,
Language.
But then you have a cat who's named Max.
Yeah, it had to be one syllable,
Right,
and
right,
you know, I'd
yeah.
run out of names that started with W. That's partly it. It was really hard, you know.
Yeah.
It was you know, after getting to Wendy, Wanda, Willie, Wiley, Wilma, Walter. I mean, look, just check. There's very few.
Very few.
I kind of used
Yeah,
them up.
yeah.
There wasn't anything left over
But I
for the
thought Max
cat.
was perfect. And
Max.
was fun to look at in every spread.
Yeah.
It was so fun to look
In fact, that's the thing. When I read this book to kids, I'm discovering in the last couple of days is they love seeing what happens to the cat. It's almost like they're just going to see the cat because the cat, poor cat, gets abused.
Yes, the cat gets abused, but the cat is. But you can
It
see
survives.
It survives. Yeah, that's fantastic. So your art, you know, as you said, Kirk has said that, you know, this is strange, but so
Yes.
wonderful and everything, and it is. But it's not over the top, you know. And the humor that you put in, not just in the words, but in the illustration, in the pictures. How do you find that balance? Because, you know, I'm going to tell you truthfully, you know, I buy a lot of picture books when I'm looking at children's books, and there's many books that just don't hit it. And there's a secret to what you do.
Yeah. In fact, I was just talking to Mac Barnett the other day, John Klassen,
Yeah,
Mac Barnett
sure.
team, a great team. But there is an art to knowing when not to, you know, use words and to allow the pictures to do the talking, to do the weightlifting, as they say.
Yeah.
But it's you know, many years doing this. It's a picture book writing it's this odd, very unique writing form that some people get.
Yeah, right.
And then some people don't, you know, and I've had the fortune of having learned from so many years ago. My first books were very careful with the words, and now I've, you know, 30 years later, I have a not only a visual voice, but a literary voice. Yeah.
But there is such a balance, and you know, I love the spreads in this where you have the text, but then, you know, Walter has to go downstairs and see what Stanley's up to. But then you have a complete spread that has no words at all.
Yeah.
I love.
And
the
you know,
way
that was for
played
me.
out.
That was what attracted to me to this book. It's 32 pages. It's no longer than most picture books. But there was something about having all this excitement and intrigue, and then a double-page spread with no words at all, where you just look and you say, "Oh my goodness," you know. And then you go back, and the family's trying to figure out what's going on. Then you go back to that. To me, the pacing of that was just irresistible. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think kids, you can know they're just. It doesn't matter how many times you go through this book, but you wait for that last page because what Stanley has done to the house and where they end up.
It's too late.
Yeah. So humor. And your books always are so much fun. But it's a humor that I think kids get on one level, but adults can get on another level. And I think that is the real beauty of books like this, because as a parent or a teacher, you don't mind reading them over and over again because they they're just as funny to you or more than they are to a young child.
Yeah.
And so when you're doing this, are you cracking yourself up?
Well, I think you said it. When a parent reads a book to a kid, they're also reading it to themselves over.
Right,
and
sure.
Imagine us, the creators, we're reading it to ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to amuse ourselves. And I think when we're creating books, we're certainly writing, we know unconsciously that there's children out there who are reading it, but we're also writing it for this kind of grown-up person in here, this grown-up child, and sort of also the artist in us, And we have, so I'm cracking up, but there's also some element to all my books where I want people to be amused, but I also want them to kind of scratch their head and think, how did he do that? Yeah.
And then you want to go back and look at the illustrations. No, that's really true. So the chicken or the egg. So words, pictures, as a visual artist, what comes first for you? For
me, I think for a lot of my colleagues I talk to who write and illustrate pictures, I start with doodles. Usually, just a drawing that suggests something, and then I'm always looking for taking that little drawing and have something, something unusual, something strange to happen, and then seeing how it kind of could work its way into a story. But usually doodles.
Doodles first.
Yeah. I mean, for a book I did, My Rhinoceros, it began with a picture of a boy with a leash. And when I got to the end of the leash, instead of putting a dog, I thought, what if, that's the big word, right? A rhinoceros.
Yeah.
And then I started, and also asking myself lots of questions. What does a rhinoceros do? And then instead of calling a zoo, just making things up and thinking, with that horn that he has, wouldn't it be interesting if all the rhinoceros could do was pop balloons and poke holes in kites? Possible.
Yeah. Very nice. So the page turns.
That's the. Yeah.
Is that frustrating? Because when you're illustrating and it's that turn right in the middle.
Yeah.
Do you have to go back and redo things because sometimes does that interrupt what you've created visually?
Yeah. Some books page turns are like one of the more unique things about a picture book because
Sure.
There's one particular book, I think, Milo's Hat Trick from a bunch of years ago, where if you go through that book, because it's a very dense story, all the funny stuff or exciting stuff, it always happens on the left-hand page, and all the kind of setup, if it was is over here on the right-hand page. It's everything on the right-hand page is setting up the fact that it wants you to turn to get to that, funny moment. So that's the page turn is when we create the little dummies for our books. The reason we do it, and it's often in a little rough sketch, is just to kind of go through and make sure the page turns all make sense, and always that big moment over on the left-hand page because we don't want anybody sneaking and looking over the.
Right, exactly. So some of my favorite books that you've done over the years are those wordplay books. And so I want to know, where did your love of wordplay come from? And what kind of word puzzles do you do, on your own when you want to entertain yourself with that? Because all of the palindromes and the anagrams and all the different types of wordplay, the spoonerisms, everything, all these different books you've done. They're so much fun. And where did that start? How young were you when you got into this?
I was actually pretty. I always loved words, but I didn't know how much I liked words. But I was having dinner with some people. We were waiting for the food to arrive. I asked this guy next to me what he was doing over the holidays. He said he was creating some palindromes. And I said, oh yeah. I passed him my little book, draw some or write some in the book, and he did. And I noticed he also did pictures to go with them. And I realized quickly that a palindrome by itself doesn't generally make sense. So he needs an illustration. So I went home, started writing palindromes, and I realized quickly that I was good at it, very good at it. And then, of course, there was an opportunity to do picture. So the two were, and so that's how that blossomed.
Are you going to do more of those books? I hope.
I am. I'm actually working on a very complicated book. It's a graphic novel told where in each frame the dialogue is palindromic. So it's called right now The title right now is called The Wonton Conundrum, because it's about a guy who wakes up one day, makes wonton soup, and he offers it to his wife and his kids. But as you quickly realize in a book in where everybody talks in palindrome, there's wonton backwards is not now, that it's impossible to offer anybody. He gets very frustrated. And even when he daydreams and goes into, transforms and transports himself into these other places, there's nobody will ever have wonton. It's not the right moment,
Right.
But it's all told in palindrome, and
that's cool.
And it's funny. It's kind of the pictures are kind of like reading a Tintin book, but everybody's talking in palindrome.
Yeah. But I love the one that was one of my, the smart feller, fart smeller. I love that book.
Yes.
And the the go hang a salami.
Go hang a salami.
I'm a salami hog.
Go hang a salami. I'm a lasagna hog. It was a palindrome I created and it was amazing how that just. It was so popular when that book came out that on Hollywood Squares, Whoopi Goldberg was the MC, and she said to the people, she said, "Okay, what's special about this phrase?" And she said, "Go hang a salami, I'm a lasagna hog." And nobody got it. Martin Short said, "Does it use all the letters in the alphabet?" And of course they were wrong. But it was,
Yeah, but even and I love Who Ordered the Jumbo Shrimp.
The oxymorons. Yes.
Oh, but so much fun. So I hope we want to see more of those books.
Yes.
They're so great.
Yeah.
And they're so great to talk to teachers too, because they love using these books in their classrooms.
I like those books because they're also for young kids, but they're for grown-ups as well. Yeah, and I like both audiences. Yeah.
So besides Hollywood Squares, you were a New York Times.
Yes.
Crossword clue too, right?
Yes. Well, when you do as many wordplay books as I do, you end up getting to meet Will Shortz.
Will Shortz, sure.
And he was gracious enough to have to put me in a bunch of crossword puzzles actually. And we had a joke, he and I, that because I was always in a Friday puzzle or a Saturday puzzle, which are the most difficult. And so I thought, well, Will, one day I'm going to get in a Monday puzzle, and that means I've made it, because that's the one. Oh, Agee, humorist, palindromist Agee. Oh, Jon, of course. It doesn't hurt that my last name is Agee.
Right. So what is your earliest recollection of drawing something and going, oh, I love this. This is what I want to be when I grow up.
Well, my father tells me that my mother brainwashed my sister and I. We had no choice to be artists, but to be artists, because she herself was an artist, is an artist, and she, put a crayon in our hand and took every little drawing we had and saved them and put them in boxes. I still have the little books I created when I was a boy.
So in high school, I read that you had a New York Times op-ed cartoon that you were in high school. You had one in the New York Times.
Yeah, I was taking a course and doing some editorial illustration it was exciting to get when I was 17. It was funny because the cartoon I did was for a very different op-ed article, but the editor, the time had passed for that article to have meaningful. So he ended up putting my picture with an article which had nothing to do with the picture, which I said more about the New York Times op-ed than it did about my picture.
Okay. But that's pretty cool. Yeah. When you're in high school, they have that go into the paper. Yeah. So you grew up in Nyack, New York.
Just north of New York City.
Right, and you went to Cooper Union School of Art in New York. So going to school, what did you hope to do as an artist, and what medium did you think you'd be working in? And because you worked in a lot of different ones. I thought I really got into film, and I thought maybe I'd get into movies, and the idea of movies excites me, but I think for me it was, California was a long way from New York, and I had, a portfolio full of cartoons and stories, and I thought, well, while I'm still thinking about the movie industry, let me see if I can get some of these published. I was very naive. I thought somebody might just, agree to publish all my cartoons, and nobody knew who I was, but some editors said, you might take some of these pictures and turn them into a book for children. Have you ever thought of that? And I did, and I took some of them together, and I got some positive feedback and some rejections, and then one of them agreed, and I was in the door. Yeah. Francis Foster.
The great Francis Foster. Yeah.
Well,
wonderful.
Well, Peter Steese is a good friend of mine too,
Yeah.
and what he says about Francis is just.
I don't think you ever hear anything. Everything you hear about Francis is, oh, Francis. I was very fortunate to have.
How
first
wonderful
been
to have
with
worked with her, though.
Yeah. And we only did 2 books together, but that was enough. I mean, for me to, and I would see her over the years, but a very special editor lady. Yeah.
So I always wondered, and you talk about cartoons or comics or be an illustrator, and some people would rather be called, I'm a comic artist, I'm a cartoonist, or I'm an illustrator. What and like Harry Bliss wants to be known as a cartoonist. And even though he illustrates children's books and does, what do you prefer? Because you do, you kind of do it all.
It's a good question, because I mean, Harry makes sense. I mean, he's when I think of Harry, I think all his cartoons for the New Yorker, and he's so good.
Well, you've
at
done a lot of New Yorker stuff too.
No, I'm not in Harry's
league. Well, I know, but you have done some though. Yeah.
And but I think author illustrator. I think I kind of veer towards author, but and I know I illustrate, but I know I've met many illustrators who I think are illustrators with a capital I, and I think I illustrate, but I think I'm at this point I'm kind of more just as interested in storytelling as I am in the pictures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are days which I think, oh God, these pictures, having to draw the pictures, because but at the same time, every time I start a new book, I'm always thinking, let's think of a different way of doing the pictures, which is, years ago, I got to know William Steig, the great William Steig, and he asked me, he said, so John, how long does it take you to do a book? And I said, I don't know, sometimes 6 months. One book took me 3 years. And he said, you're an artist. I said, what do you mean? You're an artist, aren't you, Bill? How long does it take you to do a book, Bill? He says, as fast as possible. I said, really? Why? He says, he went like this. I want the money.
Okay.
But the truth is, Bill was an amazing artist. He just he was, but he called me an artist. But I don't know. I say author illustrator. Yeah.
Right. Well, this goes back. This is going to show you our age here, but this goes back. Oh, this is way over 20 years ago, and I was at a Harper lunch in New York. Michael DiCaprio was having this lunch, and I sat next to Maurice Sendak for lunch. Great. And I was talking to him and I asked him what illustrators that he really enjoyed their work. And he said, well, there's this young guy, and I absolutely love his work, and he's really going to be something. And he said your name, Jon Agee.
That was sweet. Yeah.
So to me, well, back then, I'm looking for all your books, because when Maurice Sendak says that you are one of the best, that was very cool.
That was very sweet of him, and it was really fortunate to have met him when I did, because we hit it off. It was a book probably around that time, The Incredible Painting of Felix Clouseau, and I met him at a printing press, and he was printing a poster. I was printing the book, and he was looking at this book that I'd done, and he looked at me and said, "Who are you?" I was 28 or something, and but he was great, and we were able to stay in touch even when I moved to California, and I was able to see him about 6 months before he died, and it was great. What an important figure, and not only for me, but for everybody in the children's world. Yeah.
So besides Maurice Sendak, what other illustrators, past, present, have been a huge influence on you when you were just starting out and everything?
Well, Tommy Unger is big, and there's a big show of his in New York, which I'm hoping to see before it closes. Tommy is huge. Bill Steig, Bernard Weber, or Weber, however you pronounce his name. Right. I mean, there was Jules Pfeiffer. I mean, lately, I'm just become a big fan of John Klassen. I mean, I just love his work, and I love the way Mac writes for him. Sure. Well, I also love John's books that he's done himself. Yeah. But Leo Leone. I think when I think of all the books I have, I mean, there are books from probably the 70s and 80s more than they are from now.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. I think that was such a incredible time.
It was a great time. Yeah.
So even talking about that, a couple of years ago, that horrible article that was in the Times about the picture book is dead.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the
right.
huge uproar and everything. I mean, what a ridiculous thing that was.
Yeah, no, it seems to be more alive than ever.
Oh my gosh, it is.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some brilliant things coming out now. And to
it's-
think that parents could skip picture books and have their kids reading chapter books is insane.
Yeah.
Because picture books are great for all of us, whether you're 0 or you're 99.
It's true. It's true. I really, yeah.
So besides the graphic novel you mentioned that you're working on with the palindromes, which would be so cool, and anything else you got coming up?
Sure, I'm working on another picture book. This one is about, it's called Lian Lessons, and it's about, it's not really a plot-driven story. It's really like a lesson. A boy who, wanders down the street, and there are all these little storefronts which advertise, learn how to knit, carpentry for, beginners and whatnot. Learn how to play the violin. And then there's this one store, which is Lian Lessons. So he goes in and he learns to be a lion, but there's 7 steps. And he's doing really poorly all the way up to the end. And then this one moment, everything clicks, and he gets his diploma. Yeah.
Oh,
but it's a book which has lots of opportunity for funny stuff. Yeah,
okay.
because the lion is kind of expecting more from this young kid, and he fails miserably each step of the way. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So, Jon, I end these interviews with a little quiz. So this is Lightning Round. This is kind of Alex Trebek style. Okay. So, whatever comes first. Most of them are book related. So, what was your favorite book when you were a kid?
Winnie the Pooh. Yeah. Oh, that Winnie the Pooh or Alice in Wonderland, but Winnie the Pooh. Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh. Okay. How about a favorite comic? Or strip or comic book when you were a kid?
Comic strip was, when I was 10, I guess it was this Belgian guy named Edgar P. Jacobs who did this detective story with Blake and Mortimer. Loved his stuff. I still love his stuff. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, something in high school or college when you were in art school, a book or something that stayed with you.
Well, in college it would be like Kafka and Beckett and
whether it stayed with you, whether you wanted it to or not.
Yeah, exactly. Those never leave, especially Kafka and I guess dark Eastern Europe stuff.
Yeah, Eastern Europe. Yeah, okay. Okay, what about a book, of all the books you've read in your entire life that you've been an evangelist for? You had to tell people they had to read it.
Oh, well, was it last year, I think? I was telling everybody this book by Benjamin Kunkel called Indecision. And I love that book. And, I could go on. There's others. I mean, there was, The Glory of It All by Sean Wilsey. I thought that was hilarious. And it was also where I live in San Francisco. It was very, right now I'm crazy about these books published by Evan S. Connell, Mr. Bridge and Mrs. Bridge.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh my goodness, so insightful those books are. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, have you ever faked reading a book? Because we.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
You remember anyone?
Anna Karenina.
Oh, right. Good choice.
The parts
I
about.
loved Anna Karenina. No, that's not a good choice. But you can
I loved the book, but there was the farmer Levin. I just slipped. Oh, and also Moby Dick. Yeah. The whole part on the cytology,
You're not the first one to say that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'm not ashamed.
Okay. That's okay. That's all right. You're in good company with that. Okay. Okay. How about a favorite children's illustrator, alive or dead?
Well, right now it would be John Klassen.
Yeah.
And dead. Oh, I could go on.
On.
Andre Francois. Maurice, of course. Sempe. Is he children's book? Sampe? He's still alive though. He did a New Yorker cover. Every time there's a New Yorker cover with his picture on it, I say, oh, he's still alive. Yeah. He's got to be. Yeah. Kind of old.
Okay. What about a favorite graphic novel? Anything?
Graphic novel. Well, my friend David Small's Stitches.
That's an incredible one.
He and I mean, I love graphic novels, but often I find the art is fabulous and the story doesn't hold up to the art, or the other way around.
Sure.
But David's was just brilliant both ways. Yeah.
All right. Good score. A+. Okay.
Thanks.
Well, Jon, thanks so much for talking with me. And congratulations.
Thank you.
It's Only Stanley.
It's Only Stanley, right?
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great conversation with one of the best illustrators out there today. It's Jon Agee and his new book, It's Only Stanley. This one will make you want to read it over and over again. Thanks for joining me on Authors Revealed.